YouTube, what the Attila crap is going on? HeirofCarthage here, back on Total War Attila, obviously. Thus, I inserted it in front of crap. How creative am I? Apparently not very. Let's jump into a replay. Sassanids versus Alans. This is definitely an example of psychological warfare. When you pick a Germanic faction in quick battle and your opponent picks the Sassanids, you're like, what are they getting at? What's going on here? Something isn't right. You don't pick the Sassanids versus a Germanic faction. Well, I did. Why? Because I don't care. I just wanted to play as the Sassanids. So I did my best to pick an army that I thought would do well against the Germanic type stuff. So what are the Germanics good at? They've got good, cheap, long-range archers. So I brought these Armenian slingers. And the reason here is because the Germanic archers could basically expel all their ammunition on them and not kill them. So I intend to soak up arrows. And then I brought 4 of these mounted Persian warriors. Very cool pajama-looking type guys here with awesome beards. These guys are quite good for the price, though quite horrible versus other cavalry, but what they lack in power, they'll make up for in numbers and price. I got 4 Dialamite warriors here just again. These guys, I brought them mainly because they have javelins. And so you'll notice that I've positioned them at some distance behind my slingers, so that if my enemy brings his cav straight down the center, my Dialamites will actually pepper him with javelins before his cavalry can get clear through to my Dialamites. And if he wastes his cavalry on my slingers, I'm okay with that, because not only do I have the 4 mounted Persian warriors, I've got 6 Grivpanvar cataphracts, right now 3 on each flank, and then a Spabed general. So I have a considerable cavalry force. The Spabed general is quite expensive, but a very tanky cav unit, and not a lot of archer ammo, but it's got some. Now my opponent has 4 of these Germanic archers, as I kind of expected him to bring them, and he did. He's got 3 spear units. This was kind of unexpected. These are Germanic spearmen, so they're going to be solid spearmen. And then he's got 4 noble Germanic swords, kind of 2 in the back, 2 here, and then 2 Sarmatian warband, which make up a stronger attacking force. These guys are quite capable against any of my Sassanid infantry. His cavalry is made up of 5 noble Alani cav, and then his general is an Alani general. These noble Alani cavalry are far superior in a melee term compared to anything I have. Now, he's not using flaming shot, which is smart. He's using standard shot. It might have been better for him to use heavy shot, but that would mean he has to pull in even closer. He is within range of my slingers, but you'll notice that I'm not returning fire whatsoever. And there is, again, some method to my madness here. My slingers were brought here to absorb archer fire, not to kill enemy archers. If I need to kill enemy archers, I could try, but I also know that my slingers fire so fast, and with his archers at long range like this, that I will use all of my ammo on a 400 talent unit, and probably not kill a 275 talent unit. Ha! This guy took an arrow to the face, and there's actually a little blood for once. Thank goodness. So, and the blood actually looks pretty cool on the ground. If they would just make more of it, that would be fantastic. And if it didn't disappear, that'd also be great. So yeah, my guys, as you can see, are having an easy time blocking almost all of the arrows on the Germanic archers. In the meanwhile, I decide, you know what, I want to ruse. If my opponent goes into wedge formation, or if I don't get a good charge with my Grivpanvar, now tell me that's not a cool looking view here, looking past the gleaming helmets of my Grivpanvar out to the enemies. Very nice. So my Spabed general, and I'm going to do a little bit of this cinematic on the beginning of the battle, and then I'll spread it out to where y'all can actually see the battlefield more, but this is actually a pretty cool view. You can see the armies trading missile fire in the background. My general, with his gleaming armor here, is going to move up and taunt the enemy cavalry into an engagement. A general is a very juicy target for a noble Alani cav, and I'm going to make it even more tempting to chase after me, because I'm going to shoot him with some flaming arrows. And then, of course, I'm going to retreat as quickly as I can, because I don't want his cav to get into charging distance, or else he'll catch my general quite easily. So, as you can see, I pulled back before I got into charging distance. It was difficult to even get one shot while doing this. And now my opponent is going to be coming within charging distance of my own Grivpanvar cataphracts, and his infantry is not quite close enough to support. The Sarmatian band can be very dangerous for my men. I love the armor gleams that are coming off my guys in the sun. Looks so cool. Hope you all can see that in the video. But yeah, anyway, my opponent brings his cavalry up, and I don't know what he's really getting at, wanting to engage 5 Grivpanvar with his noble Alani. The Grivpanvar have an elite lance. I've done hit point damage to this unit already, so it's definitely going to die to my Grivpanvar, who gets a very nice charge. Perfect charges for my Grivpanvar here. My opponent does not go into wedge formation, as he should. Here, I block my own charge with my own men, and so my opponent's Noble Alani is actually going to do very well in this particular fight. And he's also going to cause damage to my slingers because of where he charged. So I'm going to pull back with my slingers. Again, notice that I haven't fired a single volley yet. I threw my Spabed General into combat here, hoping to knock out these Alani cavalry before the infantry was able to engage. And we are doing quite nicely here. The heavy Spatha of my general is going to deal a lot of damage. Unfortunately, though, my general is not intended for cav-on-cav battles, but again, he's tanking out a lot of damage enemy here. And then this Noble Alani cav is already wavering to my Griv Panvar, who is absolutely slaughtered it on the charge. This is a danger, though. The enemy is bringing up a Noble Alani general to run a charge into my men as well. But my mounted Persian warriors now have a free run at his archers, and my opponent really doesn't have much answer to this. He's engaged all his cavalry, so all of his mobility is tied up here. He definitely doesn't want to engage his Noble Alani with 4 mounted Persians, so he's kind of stuck. What's he going to do? His infantry, if they come back here, I'll kill them too with the mounted Persians, and I have a Griv Panvar free now that can swing around into this fight, so my opponent is in very, very tough shape. Now, he has gotten a breakthrough here, and so I start to position my Dialamites to be able to return javelin fire on any of his units that try and break through and do rear charges, so I've got him pinned, and then I'm just sitting in the background with my Armenian slingers, saving my ammo and biding my time. My mounted Persians are running down the enemy archers and easily destroying them, and my Griv Panvar are now going to run a rear charge on the enemy Alani general. And this is an elite lance rear charging, so this is going to be a lot of damage to the Alani general, which is otherwise quite a strong unit. So the enemy is pouring all of his infantry into this fight. My Spabed general is doing okay. The problem is now if I extricate him, he's going to take damage, but I really don't want to leave him there either, so I'm in a conundrum. I get my Dalamite warriors into spear wall in time for the charge of this cavalry, so it didn't do so great. And then I'm going to use my slingers to weaken these units just a little bit, so just causing some hit point damage here. And then I get my Dalamite warriors again into spear wall right before combat initiates. So at this point, the enemy infantry has been weakened by slinger fire and a couple of javelins, and it will now, these noble Germanic swordsmen will do quite poorly actually versus my Dalamite warriors in a shield wall. My mounted Persians are making their presence known. All the enemy archers have been destroyed with no losses. And then these Griv Panvar killed a unit of Noble Alani cav. The rest held out quite heroically. We almost killed the enemy general, and when I pull my general out, he is unfortunately going to die. But my Griv Panvar are just bowling on to victory here, slamming into this Germanic spearman and absolutely destroying it on the charge, rocketing over 200 kills. Griv Panvar are very deadly units, and I've kept one in reserve back here for late game. Because my opponent chose to match up with me early on, which I think was a mistake. And you can see that only with a few seconds of firing, I've already burned almost half the ammo on my slingers. These guys can burn ammo very quickly, but look at the good that it did here. These Noble Germanics even have upgrades, and they are just straight up losing to the Dalamite warriors in shield wall because of the bonus versus infantry. So he's definitely losing the fight. The enemy general is still alive. My general died, so I just went ahead and threw what's left of his unit against this Noble Alani cav, and I've got my mounted Persians pulling away from the fight because they were wavering due to the death of my general. And it's at this point that my slingers are going to make their presence known. The Alani general being alive is basically the only thing keeping the enemy army intact. So if I just hurl my slinger fire into this Noble Alani general and kill him, the Germanic army should fall apart, what's left of it, because some of the fights are not going their way. And that morale bonus will even out. So the enemy general just starts taking a hail of slinger fire and drops dead. So at this point, that is just some insane slinger fire. So the Armenian slingers clutching it out late in this game, and again, that's why I kept them. And then watch this, we're going to do some Griv Pan bowling here. I don't know who got the longest launch there, but we launched some guys probably about 30 or 40 meters there with that charge. So that was a Griv Pan destruction of that Germanic spear unit. I took one loss and racked up almost 100 kills. Mounted Persian warriors slamming into these spearmen from both sides, so they are going to die. And then my Griv Panvar start to go charge all these sword units, but I was like, you know what? We're just going to let my slingers finish these guys off. So I pull my Griv Panvar away, and the enemy units are just getting cremated by my Armenian slingers at this point because it's late game, and they're able to expend the rest of their ammo. Now, the Armenian slingers don't tend to get a ton of kills unless they have a blob to fire at or extremely low shield, low armor units. But again, in this case, they played their role, so I think my opponent chose the superior faction here. But this is part of the fun in playing these factions. You're not going to win like this every time. You just won't. The Germanic factions are better. But it doesn't matter, and that's what I've always told people. Just have fun. I didn't care if I won or lost this battle, and I would have showed it to you regardless. I thought it was going to be fun to get to play against the Alans with the Sassanids, just to see, if anything, the struggles that they have. So let's cover the mistakes that I made and some of the mistakes that my opponent made. I let my general get killed. It was a mistake. It was risky, and it could have potentially cost me the battle if it would have happened at a slightly more inopportune moment. My idea of using my slingers to nullify his archers worked perfectly, and my opponent didn't have much answer to it. Again, if he would have charged his cavalry to push my slingers back, he would have gotten unloaded on by javelins from my Dalamite warriors, and even if he would have killed my slingers and my Dalamite warriors, it would have basically meant that his cavalry would have taken a ton of damage, probably enough so that my mounted Persians could have almost finished them off, leaving 6 Grivpanvar to deal with his infantry, which they could have easily done. So my opponent didn't have a lot of options here. I know that this would be my most people considered a cav spam. I brought a lot of cavalry. What else are the Sassanids going to do? It's the only strength they've got, so you have to use it, in my mind. They've got these decent Armenian slinger skirmishers. They've got Grivpanvar, mounted Persians. These are good units. You have to make use of them if you want to have a chance as the Sassanids, and so that's what I did. Now, my opponent's army, his cavalry is quite tough. I don't think he really needed the upgrades versus the Sassanids. He could have saved this money with all these silver upgrades and potentially brought a couple more units to the battle, which could have been potentially very handy to try and put pressure on my slingers earlier on or get around my Dalamite warriors. And matching my cav 1-for-1 was a mistake. The Noble Alani cav are great. They really are good cavalry. In Wedge, they may have pulled it off. But the Grivpanvar cataphracts are not to be trifled with on the charge. By any melee cavalry at this point in the game. And if I would have had, say, even Pushtegban cataphracts or even stronger, definitely not to be trifled with on the charge. That is one thing you need to understand about shot cavalry in this game. Heavy shot cavalry is absolutely devastating to melee cav on the charge. Absolutely devastating. Grivpanvar, Pushtegban, and Gayanevspar cav for the Sassanids all have the elite lance, which means that they will cause a considerable amount of anti-cav damage on the charge. And then if you look at the Sassanid shot cav, this is like the only redeeming factor of their entire faction. All of their shot cavalry has fantastic charge bonuses on top of very good health. Even down here at the cheap 425, you still get a 200 charge bonus when almost 200 health off these Persian cataphracts. The only problem with these cheaper units is that they're medium, which is not bad versus infantry. It's just not going to be as good versus cav. But again, Pushtegban's, Gayanevspar are kind of cost forbidding, and you don't really get a whole lot more bang for your buck. You just get a lot more armor on them. But again, all these units potentially very deadly. Look at this, 475 for the mounted Persian warriors. Not bad health, really, for this price. And the stats are pretty good, again, for the price, with a 20 bonus versus cav. The biggest thing holding them back is that they're medium melee cav, and they should be medium melee cav. These guys aren't heavy cav, so I'm not complaining about them. I'm just saying that's what's going to hold them back from being really great on a cav fighter on a charge. But like I said, the Sassanids kind of need that stuff. Hope you all enjoyed this one. I thought it would be fun just to, again, kind of pick the underdog factions. I enjoy that. Hope you enjoyed it. HeirofCarthage, signing off for now.